Hello, welcome to Criminology Week 4. We have a special topics this week to keep things interesting for you. We're going to be critiquing mainstream media reporting on crime. I'll talk about it in just a minute. Last week, we watched 13th documentary on the age of mass incarceration and the criminal justice system in the United States. For a lot of people, that was kind of like an aha kind of moment for understanding uh, how the United States became the largest penal colony in the world, and that the criminal justice system really has nothing to do with justice uh, at all. And so, didn't make too many comments on the discussion post, but what I did instead, I gave everyone extensive feedback um, when I posted your grade on Canvas, and so I made a lot of my comments there. So please be sure to read those comments that I sent to each one of you individually. Um, yeah, so I encourage all of you to watch the documentary 13th, Family, Friends. It's a really good conversation that I think we need to have as a country on how we think about justice in the United States. And of course, justice is the last thing that happens in the criminal justice system of the United States. Um, we've learned that the relationship between crime and race, especially the relationship between race and the criminal justice system in the United States, of how um, basically certain groups of people were criminalized and scapegoated for larger social ills. And so we can see how the media and politicians have colluded together to create folk devils through moral panics, like, for example, the manufactured war on drugs that was used to attack anyone that went against the government, whether it's people fighting for civil rights, women's rights, environmental rights, animal rights. There were the police cracking skulls, putting people in prison. And it's not too often where members of the government, like Nixon's advisors, they admit to their crimes and their corruption, but they completely manufactured the war on drugs in order to criminalize Black people, to undermine the Black community, to murder and assassinate its leaders, to kill Black spokesmen, to kill Black intellectuals, um, and to go into the Black community and to terrorize them based on this war on drugs that was meant to undermine Black leadership, undermine the civil rights movement, undermine basically human beings fighting for their rights. And so people who fought against the war, protested against the wars, they were also the subject of police scrutiny under this manufactured and completely made up war on drugs. And most Americans now completely understand that um, the so-called war on drugs was never about solving drug addiction. It was never about justice. It was never about easing human suffering. It was all about targeting our brothers and sisters and putting them in prisons. And so a lot of Americans today argue that we need to end the war on drugs and we need to decriminalize all drugs and treat drug addiction as a um, mental health issue, not a criminal issue. And so decriminalizing all drugs becomes very important if we want to even take the basic steps of having justice in our so-called criminal justice system. Um, and we realize again that the criminal justice system is anything but justice. It's there to as an agent of social control and oppression. It's there to uphold class inequality. It's there for the protection of the opulent, the rich, the powerful, and the billionaire class against the working classes, that is, people with jobs. And it's one of the biggest con money makers in the United States. And that's why prisons are highly profitable, which is why you have criminal lobbyists that legally bribe criminal politicians to keep up draconian social policies and criminal policies like the war on drugs and lock so many of our brothers sisters away in cages to languish, so simply a few people can make billions of dollars. And so that's what's considered justice in the United States. So this week we're going to look. I asked you actually to do a little bit of your own research. I provided one article for you, but my hope is that you look at three different articles um, that talk about or discuss crime. You can look at local newspapers, you can look at national papers, but something in the mainstream media that addresses crime in society. And my hope is that you'll be able to look at how the article discusses the usual suspects that explain crime, a few bad apples, maybe more police, things like that, while ignoring the historical circumstances and the structural conditions that explain crime. In other words, uh, critique three different articles. One I provided for you called, let's see if I can find it here. As murder surges in New Orleans, the NOPD, New Orleans Police Department, seeks to revive a once heralded strategy to target gangs. And so that's one article that you can critique its assumptions, critique its arguments, critique the ideas and the explanations of crime as it's presented in the article. And then you can pick two other articles of your own choice. And your job is to critique how the media represents and reports crime um, to the people, to the masses of people. And remember, the purpose of the media is not to really inform us, but is to manufacture consent, is to um, spread the ideas of the powerful and the opulent. It's used as another tactic of class warfare against American people to shape and manufacture consent, to get us to believe in what our master class wants us to believe, to get us to accept orthodox mainstream thinking, to keep up the status quo. And so your job is to go in there and put on that sociological cap, use that sociological imagination, think about how folk devils and moral panics have been manufactured, how the criminals have been represented, how they completely ignores the structural conditions that cause crime, and for you to critique those three articles, and then have a title for each article, and then your critique, and then offer a conclusion where you can talk about the um, your final conclusion where you discuss your major takeaway of your argument. And so I very much look forward to reading all of your posts on the discussion boards. And I'll be making some comments as usual, individually or whether or on the discussion board. And hopefully you'll enjoy our assignment this week. I think a lot of students find this to be kind of fun where they can do their own kind of research and their own critique as budding intellectuals and budding sociologists that use that sociological imagination. So thank you very much. Look forward to it. Keep up the solid effort. Thank you.